they used. Again, going through the problem-solving process, you kind of self-assess where are we, what can we do to continue to move and to grow within this program, within the initiative. So some things that they looked at is that they could help with is how do we bring consistency? We have to have total commitment. It can't be, oh, this is so-and-so's baby, this is David's baby, he's the PBIS guy, because is that going to work? You're not going to find consistency if everybody's not doing it, if everybody doesn't commit to helping those students through this process as well. So some things they looked at was like dress code. How can we be more consistent with our dress code and holding students accountable to dress code across the whole school? How do we fill out office discipline referrals? As a new teacher, the first year I taught in high school, that was one of my questions. How do I walk the student to the office? Do I call somebody and say I'm sending them? Do I send a paper with them or after? Those are those kind of system issues that you have to know as a new teacher. How do I do this? What is it? What's the routine? And what am I expected to do? So those, that question of you assume nothing, you teach everything, and that's what we're looking for. So you can see some of the things that they did that they wanted to work on. Tardies, again, being a big key item. The very last one, working on bell-to-bell learning. So they talk to the students, what does that mean? Does it mean you're standing beside my door or out my door? You actually have to be in your seat when the bell rings. So we know that positive culture happens when we have that common vision and that common experience, and then also that common language that we use with students, so that we use this as a sounding board to teach, that we're teaching behavior, so that we want students to move through our school and they know that their bottom line, these are our expectations. This is, no matter what, this is what we're looking for. If you go below that line, these are our consequences that you can be looking for. But the bottom line, we want you to be respectful, we want you to be responsible, and we want you to be ready, or that we want you to have a community of caring. We want those cues, those social cues to be the same, meaning that if we get 1,200 students in one room and we need them to be quiet and ready for the assembly to start, that we can use a cue and that they'll understand that and they'll understand what it means and that we're using that in every area. And that the consequences are the same. We know that there are repercussions if we don't have that, but we know that also that using those practices will move students more closely to consistency and more towards appropriate behavior. So those big ideas are that we want to be preventative. We don't want to be following students around trying to be reactive. Okay, this happened, A, B, and C happened with so-and-so. Okay, well, I need to call his parent and I need to do this. And, well, we need to have a discussion about that. But instead, we want to be on the other end because we know we're going to be working with behavior one way or the other. Why not be on the proactive end where we're teaching them what we're looking for, we're modeling that, we're allowing them to practice that, and then if there's any reteaching that needs to recur when they have an issue, then it's a lot easier because we can say, remember us talking about this, remember what we expect here, and then it becomes a reteaching rather than just let's follow up and try to do what we can after it's already occurred. So good response strategies to behavior, again, is reteaching, re-cueing them back to what you're looking for, and then using that redirect and let's prompt them as we're walking out. Remember, class change is coming. What do we expect in the hallways? Be looking for that. We're going to be out there helping you make sure that you're using and being on your best behavior. So using that different way of thinking for non-responders, that we're going to teach them the same way we do academics. We're going to find what are they missing out on and what can we provide. And I love the bottom one, the bottom statement where it says, kids use what works. Sometimes we need to teach them better ways to get what they need because they know what works, they found what works, they're going to use it to meet the needs that they have. But we want their needs to be met, but we want them to do it the appropriate way. So that we want to really reinforce that. So we found that students and schools are responding and that there is an impact across the board. Like I said, we have over 1,000 schools and we're seeing an impact in each and every school. And the reason we think we're seeing that is because they're beginning to use what they have in an appropriate or in a way that's very constructive. They're critically reviewing their discipline systems and saying, is this working for us? Where are the gaps where we're not needing that structure, that consistency and communication that we're looking for? They're streamlining down to let's not everyone have a bunch of different rules that everyone's trying to reinforce, but let's bring that common vision together so that it's getting more back to it takes a village to raise a child. It's getting back to that. Let's all work together and have the same vision for our students. Partnering with the community, meeting those parents, those community partner members, and again, improving that communication among everybody. Okay? Do you have questions? I've been told that you will, so please fulfill them. Or I would love to hear things that are working well.
I've watched Amanda change her teaching to, oh, I really like the way, or I'm really, and I can see it was resistant at first. They talked and she just reiterated again and again, and really responded really well.
Wonderful. That's great. Anything else?
Could you talk to us a little more about some of the challenges you've seen at the high school level? Because we're talking about much bigger schools than these elementary schools that do a lot of this stuff.
Oh, yeah. I actually gave some research to Dr. Hill to share about 7 or 9, I think it's 7 schools across the nation that are high schools that are doing very, very well. And they brought them together to do a monograph of what were your roadblocks, what are still things that you're having issues with, and how did you get through those? And one of the ones that are on the very top of the list for high schools is consistency. And the reason behind that is, of course, is we have a very large area that we usually cover, and we try to do those in departments. And so that we have to move beyond thinking, yes, we can do things in departments, but how do we include ourselves in the whole building? Other aspects of that is also reward systems, or those I like to call them acknowledgement systems, because it's really what we're trying to do is acknowledge appropriate behavior. What works for high schools? What works for high school students? And what they found over time is, again, those social engagements, or even season passes to athletic events, drama events, yearbook, free yearbooks. And the way they've offset costs for that is, of course, getting those community partners to sponsor like 10 yearbooks that you can give away. But again, tapping into what motivates high school students is another issue. Other roadblocks that I've heard is the teaching component. And that they've tried a lot of different things. They've tried teaching just in homeroom, teaching just in special areas such as in freshman academies, and they're not finding that works. You have to integrate it into everything that you do. So it has to be visible, has to be up, you have to be able to see it, like I see it in here, but not only in the classrooms, but it's got to be in the hallways, it's got to be on the bus, it's got to be loading to the bus so that they can continually see that. And then not only that, but we can teach them by the language that we're using. And so we're moving high schools towards thinking about that, such as if respect is one of our expectations, and let's say we've got a lot of talking going on in one area, we can say, Johnny, I hear a lot of talking going on over here. You're really not respecting your learning environment by doing that. I need you to respect your learning environment by, and then telling them what you're looking for. So you're going back to this common language that we want them to use, that we want everybody to use in the whole school, and then if they hear it in your classroom, they hear it in the next classroom. Research tells us that students, anybody, has to hear the appropriate behavior 28 times before they can actually change it. So think about how many times they're going to have to hear it and see it. So it can't just be you. You can't just say that's my personal goal. It has to be everybody. So to change an unwanted behavior, you have to show them appropriate behavior 28 times. So that's a daunting task on your own. But when everybody is committed to doing the same thing, it makes it a whole lot easier. So that teaching component we really have to use within our language of redirecting and cueing back to the appropriate behavior. Good question. Any other questions? Comments and concerns? That's scary. Yeah, that's right. I feel the same way. Thank you all for coming in, especially after lunch.
Thank you.
Thank you.